Time for Elko Live today, our weekday radio show, and today's special guest is all the way in from Washington, D.C. We're sitting down with our Congressman Mark Amodei, Congressman in District 2 in Northern Nevada. And Congressman, welcome, Mark. It's wonderful to see you, to have you here in Elko. I know you're here as a special guest for the Lincoln Day dinner. So,
hey, but thank you for the invitation, Lori. It's great to see you, and it's great to be back in my dad's hometown of birth.
Oh, I guess I never knew that. Do you think that's widely known?
He was born in Elko in 1930.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and so your records and your newspaper has the event recorded for July 12th, 1930, or it might be in the 13th.
Well, that's a fantastic connection, and you have had no problem earning re-election now 8 times, is that right? 8 terms?
I don't know, a few, yeah.
Okay, all right, so yeah.
It's probably bad luck to count them, so I don't.
All right, that's a good idea. So we'll dive right in. What's going on in Washington? What's going on with you in Washington, D.C.?
Well, nothing. So what's your next question?
Yeah,
you know?
okay.
Well, it's a change of administration, and so as we talk, it's 85, 83 days since the inaugural. The Trump administration is off to a rapid start, which you can kind of understand because, like, listen, even though there was some Joe Biden in the middle, it's like you get 2 terms and this is your last one, so don't waste any time. And he hasn't. I think they're still feeling their way around some stuff. But anyhow, he's been a phenomenal help in the House. You know, people say, well, he only got 3 votes to spare or 5 or after the stuff in Florida. And you might as well whistle past the grate. I go, oh, that's plenty. We don't need any more than that. But if Donald Trump hadn't been in the White House, there were a couple of these budget votes recently that we wouldn't have gotten out of the corral with. And so, and now that sets it up for the next 60 days with reconciliation, and also the 2026 budget being on appropriations and being the subcommittee chair for Homeland Security. Those, you got FEMA, you got ICE, you got Border Patrol, you got the Coast Guard, Secret Service, CISA, the Internet or the cybersecurity people that do the non-defense side. So that's your utilities, your communication, all that sort of stuff. And so it's a busy time. Grateful for the responsibility, but it also puts us in a good position to also connect some dots for stuff that it's like, well, if you need that, here's what I need you to do for my peeps back in Nevada. So the days go fast.
And that's what I think people may not be understanding, especially if they're getting the majority of their news from social media, one side or the other, Mark, is that Congress still has a lot of work to do, if not, all the work to do. We are hearing that why isn't Congress exercising authority? For example, on tariffs. But you've talked about Congress is. You have to go back in now and do the work.
Well, everybody's got their talking points, both sides. I've never been a big fan of talking points. And so it's like, well, you're not doing your job. It's like, really? You weren't on the phone call with myself and Secretary Noem, or you weren't on the phone call with the White House liaison going, what the... And it's like you're on the same team, so doing my job isn't being rude to people or punching them in the mouth, but it very much is going, this dog isn't going to hunt. And to be frank, some of the stuff was like, why did you do this? Well, in some instances, like, well, this is what we got from OMB, Office of Management and Budget, and they just kind of, and it's like, well, I can assure you that when we go through it, that's not going to count for much. So there might be some stuff put back in, because when your explanation for the analysis is, well, we just did the whole thing, and I'm going, well, I haven't got that luxury. We've got to go down a few layers, and we will.
And that's also what we're hearing, Congressman, is that you need to hear from people, not just, oh, I hate so-and-so, I hate so-and-so. You want to hear what are the concerns. So what we hear, here in Elko from like senior citizens, they're fearful. Social Security, Medicare, right? Okay.
We've taken a deep dive on Medicare, met with all the hospital administrators, including yours here in Elko, the state Medicaid director that runs the whole program for the state, a very smart lady. and as well as the hospital administrators in the Truckee Meadows, in Western Nevada, Fallon, as well as the Clark County ones. And so, contrary to the and I met with my counterpart, who's the chairman of the policy committee, Energy and Commerce, that has jurisdiction specifically over Medicaid. And so we started out the meeting by saying, hey, so we're not touching traditional Medicaid, right? He goes, absolutely. We're looking at the expansion population. And so when you talk to the state folks, they're like, listen, 60% of the babies born in Nevada are on Medicaid. Not going to touch them. You know, Medicaid is young people, moms, older people with disabilities, all that stuff. It's like that part of the budget in what Nevada gets, not going to be touched. Now, we're going to see what goes on. There are opportunities to save money in pharma, which we should try to do, and we will. But it's like that expansion population where they're going, well, if you're able-bodied male, then we're going to do a work requirement. To which it's like, well, that sounds fine, except that don't count your savings from that until you see how many people are going to actually be able to comply with that. So, I mean, the answer has always been for us is it's like when I vote the way I do on that reconciliation, people are going, well, you just hosed women in terms of voting. And it's like, no, we didn't. Here are the facts. And we talked to DMV to make sure that if you change your name and you need a new Nevada driver's license, which is also a real ID, that won't be a problem and blah, 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 and that they do that now. What's your name change volume now in Nevada? Some things like that to where it's like, well, if you don't want to get into just, I hate you because you're a donkey or I hate you because you're an elephant, here are the facts which we're going to act on. And the beauty of that is, Lori, in this job, you got the opportunity to fire me every 24 months. It's not like anybody's building a dynasty here.
Yeah, and I know that gets discussed every time it comes up. You were challenged last time, but there really was no competition for you, Mark. I mean, I'm not saying you're being smug. It's just that the reality is people are satisfied with the work you're doing.
Well, I mean, what's that saying? Elections have consequences, and so. When it became clear that we were going to run against a self-funder to the tune of millions of dollars, and there are people who, and listen, they're not any different around Nevada that this person's going to spend $6 million, you're toast. And it's like, I would hope that somebody's decision doesn't come down to, I saw 10 commercials for this guy and one for you, so I'm voting for the 10 commercials. And I got to tell you, it was very gratifying at the end to go, this guy didn't even come the closest of two people that I've run against in the last 3 or 4 times who spent a fraction of the amount. This guy came in third place as far as the whatever. So on a personal basis, I remember gathering my people and saying, we're going to raise money the way we always have. We expect to raise about the same amount. We're going to spend it the same way. And if that turns out to be a mess and I get killed, I take full responsibility. So to have that confidence where you win by just short of 20 points when you're outspent 10-1 is like, well, I think that validates something that we're doing. And thank you, voters in Nevada, for being discerning consumers of electoral information.
And it sounds like what Congressman Amodei, too, I've heard in some other interviews that you've done. Again, you want to talk about these issues. You want to debate. You want fact-based discussion.
Yeah.
So when people are upset, as you said, did you say something like 45,000 calls, just sort of hate calls? Was that what?
It wasn't that many, but it was. I mean, the volume is large.
Yeah.
It's like, you need to have a town hall. I said, listen, I'm as accessible as anybody. I mean, I do mini town halls, getting on airplanes, when I go to Home Depot or Lowe's, when I'm doing my own shopping. We meet with groups all the time. I'm back for 2 weeks. I'm sure there'll be protesters at several of the events that I'm doing that are in the Truckee Meadows, and it's fine. That's American, but it's like, if your only message for me is, I hate Trump, I hate Musk, I hate you because you're a Republican, it's like, I got that. I'm
Let's
not
work
ignoring
on these problems.
I'm not ignoring that, but I'll give you an example. I walked out of the office in Reno a couple of weeks ago, and there were 6 or 8 people standing there by the front door. And I walked out, and one of them goes, are you Amodei? And I go, yeah. How you guys doing? Well, we're, they were teachers, and they wanted to talk about education. And so I said, well, do you have an appointment? And they're like, well, no. I go, oh, you're here to pick it. And I said, well, listen, if you've got a minute, turns out I got my education guy here from D.C., so I took out my phone and called inside. I go, hey, you got a minute? There's some teachers out here that would like to come in and talk about issues, whether you get rid of the Department of Education or you don't, or how it works in Nevada and whatever. And he goes, sure. So they went in and talked. It's like, listen, I'm not telling you I don't want to hear from you. I just don't need 300 people telling me that I'm a jerk. It's like, I get it. You know, nobody ever got 100%. And I'm not trying to be flip about it. But it's like, if you want to help solve problems with information that I need, absolutely. But I don't see that. And after been around for years, you know, Lori, Dean Heller and I did one. They go, well, you haven't had one since 2017. And I go, do you know what happened in 2017? Dean Heller was in the middle of a race against Jackie Rosen. So we had a town hall together in the convention center in Reno. And we had a room that held like 300. It's like, no, you're going to need more than that. So we rented it. You don't get those rooms for free. Okay, here's one for 600. And oh, by the way, they require everybody to have security. So bigger room, more security, comes time for it. I go walking in through the front door, you know, like, well, I got to go in and do this. And there's all sorts of people outside, and they're mad. And I go, what are you mad about? And they go, we can't get in. It's full. And I'm like, well, okay. Well, guess what? They had bussed people in from Vegas and California to the town hall to go after Heller. And it's like, I mean, I wasn't immune, but we're sitting here and I'm going, hey, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I do learn from life's experiences. We're not going to have a town hall for you guys so you can, you know, stream them and whatever the heck. It's like, listen, there's no mystery to me. I talked to a group of Reno High We the People competitors that were in Washington last week to compete, as I have done the whole time back there. Sometimes I went to their classroom in Reno. Tough group of kids, great questions, smart kids. The future is bright when you talk to them. And there was one of the teachers in there when we started talking is holding up his cell phone recording. And I was like, hey, that's fine. I go, are you getting all this? So it was whatever, but it's like, hey, if you get a gotcha moment out of this, I can't wait to hear it because the story's the same no matter what. So anyhow, as you can tell, I'm, you know, if I was younger, I might be home pulling my hair out and you know, wringing my hands and whatever. And it's not that I don't pay attention to that because I do, but it's like, if you're here to help solve problems or you think that they're doing something that's awful, then let me know because if it's true, you know, and so I said, I'm not going to do an apology tour for winning.
Congressman Mark Amodei is our guest today, talking about a variety of issues as he's in Elko for the Lincoln Day dinner. And, you know, we've asked this question to Congressman because we know that we haven't seen a lot of our representatives. Catherine Cortez Masto, her security detail expressed concerns. I'm not sure when the last time Jackie Rosen was here. And this isn't a Democrat-Republican thing. This is just what you're talking about, civility and security. That's all. Yep. I think it's important that people understand, and that has to do with the people who want to attend these and be secure as well, and safe.
Yep.
So what about Social Security? Is there anything new to report there?
Social Security is off the table. Now, there's going to need to be some work done in terms of shoring that up because, you know, it's like, hey, you can't keep going this way. But when you talk about making the Medicaid expansion population, because that expansion population has grown phenomenally in the last 4 years. And so obviously that's getting looked at a lot, but the savings in terms of if you can run a Medicare program, and this is important, Lori, Nevada ranks 37th in the nation for what we spend on Medicaid. And so one of the points that we've made to the committee, Energy and Commerce Committee, is like, listen, we're part of the team. We're willing to do our part, but we're not. When you get other people with that expansion population down to what Nevada's spending, then give us a call and we'll be there. But we're not starting when there's other states that are spending phenomenal amounts more than us to go, well, now you guys got to shed the first drop of blood along with everybody else. And so the chairman, to his credit, goes, I hadn't thought about that. And I said, I'm not telling you where it ends up, but one of the neat things about you only got a 4-vote whatever is like, you guys can do better than this. People have got some brains. Don't make my people do the first drop of sweat along with the folks who are spending a heck of a lot more than us. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the pharma stuff. But Social Security, and there will be savings from this stuff when we have success. And I know there's a lot of people that hate Elon Musk, and certainly his charm school credentials some days are pretty weak. But I'm embarrassed. It's like really some of this stuff that's turning up, we're just going, Jesus, no wonder people hate, blah, blah, blah. And so that isn't gonna save all the money and be the answer to all the questions. But I think undertaking that review to go, well, let's look at everything. And you start in this day and age, you start with an algorithm. That's how we did the sage hen stuff on where are the areas? Well, let's plug in terrain, moisture, blah, 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 and then create a map, knowing that it's not the be-all and end-all. And then we'll go do ground truthing, and it'll evolve, and so we'll know the areas that are real habitat. In the same kind of way, this is how these guys started. The problem is, good start, but now, and I'm happy to say that 3 weeks ago, the president put out a little tweet, he puts out a lot, put out a little one, said, I've had a cabinet meeting, and those cabinet secretaries, if Doggy, listen, Lori, nothing against the French people, but it's the nugget in Sparks, it's the nugget in Vegas, it's the nugget in Carson, not the Nouget. I'm a product of public education, DOGE, phonics, Doggy. I call it Doggy.
Now, I got to ask you that, and then we have to get back to this, because Doggy or Doge, is this like an insider thing, or is this a Mark Amodei thing? Because
it's a Mark Amodei thing.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm on Rebellion. It's Doggy.
Okay, that you do call it that. Okay.
Yep, I sure do.
All right. I just wanted to double check.
I've said that to Christy Nome. I've said that to the White House liaison. So it's like anybody, well, Doge, and I go, stop right there.
Yeah, and you tell them the story, and
anyhow.
So let's talk about that too. Finding the savings, because it is fair to note, it's important to note, there was a Cato Institute survey just out, I think Thursday. Americans estimate the government wastes 59 cents of every dollar it spends. This is a libertarian-leaning think tank, so let's just think of it in the middle, right? Not the D's, not the R's. Over 3/4 of Americans believe the federal government spends too much money. The federal government is in debt by $36 trillion and ran a near $2 trillion deficit last year. So those surveyed by Cato favored spending cuts over tax increases to bridge the budget gap. The federal government is projected to hit the true debt limit sometime this summer. So here's the question: why are we going after what seems like the low-hanging fruit, but why not go after the defense contracts, right? Get the big money right away.
Well, defense isn't immune from Doggy, first of all. But here's the thing. When you look at the budgets, 74, 75, 76 cents of every federal dollar spent is in those programs that we're talking about. The mandatory spending program, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and interest on the debt. So as in any organization, if you're like, I want to make some cuts, defense isn't going to be immune. Homeland isn't going to be immune. All those 12 separate committees that do that, everybody's getting examined for cuts. But quite frankly, you can't get there if you don't look at the mandatory spending. And the interest on the debt part is I mean, that's totally our fault. It's like, well, when you're paying the interest and it wasn't 1% like it was a few years ago.
It's these horrible balloon
it's more
payments.
More than you spend on defense.
So here's the thing too. It seems like the small amounts of money that go to things like the schools, the Head Start, the food banks, the arts, the veterans, the Medicaid, that have nothing to do with DEI, because we understand there's a political agenda there. But it seems like those small amounts of money are causing so much hardship. I mean, and I don't know if you agree with that. I'm just talking about what I'm hearing from the community.
No, and I get that. But my response would be, We started after the doggy stuff started, setting up a whole part of our office, and I call it whack-a-mole.
I was going to ask about
So
yes, whack-a-mole.
if you've got somebody who said, hey, I had a lady stop me in the Dallas airport 2 days ago, and she goes, there's nobody in the Forest Service left in the Tahoe Basin. The office is closed. And I go, no, ma'am. The Tahoe Basin Management Unit, which is the same as the Humboldt-Toyabe National Forest, it's managed by the region out of Vallejo. I go, we went to both Vallejo and Salt Lake where the Humboldt-Toyabe's managed. How many did you lose in the you can retire, or we're firing everybody that's not fire related with 2 years or less experience? And the numbers were not, they were like in the teens. And so, not that that's like, well, that's okay, I don't care. We are nonetheless going, well, you think that people that don't have the word fire somewhere in their job description aren't related to it? But that whole support thing for setting up those camps for those type 1 incidents where, you know, you got hundreds of thousands of acres or they're burning next to a community or something. I go, so the problem that they made was they ran with the algorithms and that's all they did. And it's like, now you need to look at who, now if somebody said, hey, I want to retire, I'm not really sure what to say about that. It's like, well, if you hadn't punched that button, you'd still have your job. Unless you were a 2, but you know, you can't retire when you're a probationary employee for 2. So, I mean, we're going around where they're like, well, if you think you're losing a grant, and if any of your listeners fit this, if you think you're losing a grant or a program's been cut off, call us, because that's part of our job, to go ground truth that. And and we're working some of that stuff now where it's like, hey, this is not DEI when you're trying to improve the water system at Schurz or insulating houses or building a nutrition center on whatever. It's like, I'm sorry, that's infrastructure and it's not politically related and nobody's going to be able to do a TV commercial. It's not sex and violence. So that shouldn't have got caught up. Here's the interesting thing though, Lori. As part of this reconciliation package where there's still some moving parts and you got to kind of get through that and all that, and people go, you people in Congress, it's like, listen, ladies and gentlemen, if there's stuff they took out that I think shouldn't have been taken out, I'm putting it back in.
And you can do that?
Well, I got the budget. You know, it's my committee that says, here it is in Homeland. And guess who's in Homeland? FEMA. And so...
it hasn't gotten to you yet, though, right?
Oh, no, it's to me now.
Okay.
And that's why we're meeting with Elizabeth Britt, who is my counterpart in the Senate. We're working together with them. She and I are going to go meet the OMB people to go, I know you didn't do any analysis on this past the initial, we just want to get rid of this program. But we're doing it. And so unless you think we're committing treason, guess what? We ain't using your numbers. Now, I'm not gonna do a TV commercial on that, but it's like, there's no problem, especially with the appropriators, if people think we're like, well, we're just waiting for the administration to tell us what to do. Of course, we're on the same team, but you know what? And this is a respect thing where it's like, what was the analysis that caused you to do this? If the answer is, we just did a blanket kind of algorithm thing, it's like, that dog ain't gonna hunt. And so, but here's the other part that hasn't, it's out there, but I don't think there's a real big realization where it's like, that little dust up we had last week where there were people who weren't going to vote for it, that was all kind of budget committee related that said, we want absolute positive commitment that we're going to cut at least $1.5 trillion out of the budget. It's like, so they got together and worked that out, and they got that. But with that, it's like, okay, you're going to get that, but at the same time, you know, when you said, hey, we're going to run out of Schlitz in the summer sometime, that debt limit is going to be bumped up against. That bill, that reconciliation bill, is going to include an increase in the debt limit of $5 trillion.
Yeah.
Now, you don't turn an aircraft carrier around on a dime, but it's one of those things where if it's just about that, and I get why people don't trust the federal government. It's like, I understand. But if we're going to turn this around, then you have to go into the areas that you can work out in a responsible political way in Medicaid, not Medicare. You got to start with a 1.5 trillion cut in what you're doing in fiscal year 26, which, by the way, that's a good, strong thing. But it's like, hey, by the way, now the fact that you've got a $5 trillion increase in that, the next shoe to drop in that is, well, you get a $5 trillion increase, and by God, you better not be up against it. You better not have used it up in a year.
Well, I was just going to ask that. So, because we know with the legislature in session, we just passed this first bill deadline. We found out the prisons are farther in debt than we realized. So, was some of this federal money going to be cut in checks and given to states to do with, for example, with no Department of Education? So, do we get a windfall of education money?
No. Well, listen, I hope I'm wrong, so you can call me back on and go, you were wrong about that. But that's why we did such a deep dive on Medicaid, because I remember from the days when I was in the legislature and Kenny Gwynn going, if you look at a pie chart of what Nevada spends, that's a big slice of pie that they do for their part of Medicaid. And so you're sitting there looking at it going, this cannot be something where you just say, well, we're not doing it anymore and good luck dealing with it, states. That's not a solution. The same thing with the Department of Education. It's like, well, they're talking, it's kind of like, everybody goes, well, he's the master negotiator, and so we're talking all tough on tariffs, but we'll see where we end up. We'll see where we end up with the Department of Education, but I can tell you my first analysis of it is, as a Nevada guy who's in a pretty good spot on appropriations, it's like, if the net of this is, we're just walking away from it. If sending money that the Education Department used to administer straight to the states, when you triple net that out and it's like, and oh, by the way, it's a lot less, then it's like, you better have something other than, oh, we're just giving it direct to you, but by the way, where you got $1 from us in the past, you're getting 50 cents from us in the future. It's like, well, the challenge for everybody right now is how do you maintain a good level of service, but without all the inefficiencies and this and that. So that's the challenge. And that's what we're going to be spending our time doing. And those are two big areas that you've touched upon, which is Medicaid and also education. So we're going to make sure we got a sharp pencil. We're going to be very transparent. And when we talk to the White House and the administration on this stuff, it'll be after we've talked to our colleagues on the relevant committees with jurisdiction and talked within ourselves on appropriations and go, hey, I'll go defend well-reasoned, well-thought-out, effective cuts all day long. I've done that before. But I'm not just going to say, hey, this is a brave new time and good luck dealing with this. Because quite frankly, Nevada is not famous for throwing a bunch of money at problems. And so our frugality, if you will, is something that shouldn't be taken for granted.
Talking with our Congressman, Mark Amodei, who is visiting here in Elko. We appreciate your time. I know it's limited. You have an engagement, and I want to obviously respect that. I just wanted to ask, too, do you think democracy is safe, right? Because you're out here, you're working in the trenches. I think that's evident by this conversation. But overall, there is so much concern and so much talk about grand designs toward oligarchy or patrimonialism, that turning the government into a family business. You hear those things, right?
Yeah, I get all that. But listen, if you want to get, those are talking points. And the Republicans have talking points too.
Absolutely.
If you want to listen, I think the biggest threat is money. It's like when people start thinking, and there's examples on both sides, where it's like, if I just get more money, I win. And it's like, really? Don't you want to know the qualifications of the people that are asking for your vote? Don't you want to know that they're not basically saying, this is an auction and I'm going to outspend you? And so, yeehaw for me. And listen, both sides do it. There was a dinner Wednesday in D.C., the National Republican Congressional Committee. They raised, I don't know what it was, $35 million in one night. The president talked at it, whatever. And I just sit there and go, I get that. It takes money to win elections. That's not news to anybody. But you watch this just continue to spiral up and out of the atmosphere, and you watch these consultants that are the major benefactors of that and what they're providing. I'll tell you a message that I said to at the Reno Lincoln Day dinner last week. I said, please redouble your efforts. You know, you've made strides in your infrastructure, if you will, the ground game, blocking and tackling, registering people, turning out people, organizing precincts, all that stuff. Now what you need to do is you need to find candidates who don't think that their biggest challenge is, I'm going to go hire the most expensive consultant possible, and then I'm going to be good. And especially when it's like, no matter how much money you raise, if these folks are going to have spent more, then it really isn't about you and what you think the potential solutions are and what your background is. And so, you know what? Those people will serve you well. And so, to the extent you can, we need to focus, and I would hope both sides, focus on getting the best possible candidates, and then guess what? You're in a horse race, and that's a good thing instead of a spending race.
So, Congressman, I think it's okay to ask, with that discussion in mind, did you buy stocks when the president said to buy stocks?
Listen, my financial portfolio is whatever Tia Kraft is doing for it or whatever. Please feel free. It's public information. Take a look at my financial disclosure, because it'll look a heck of a lot different than it did in 2011. And when I heard the doggy people, we want to investigate these people who went to Congress and whatever, and now all of a sudden they got zillions of dollars. It's like, hell, I'd like to know that. You know, I guess I was at the wrong place at the wrong time or something. And by the way, I'm being a little glib. I'm very proud of the fact that what I'm worth, where I live, and my financial stuff, whether it's campaign or personal, is just fine, thank you. It's normal. Mow my own lawn, do my own grocery shopping. Thank you for the compliment on my vehicle, which I just think the world of. It is my newest vehicle, and it's 25 years old. But I take really good care of it.
Well, I'm going to make sure that we got to all the things you were hoping to. You were very kind and said, we're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about, Lori. And I try to just glean everything that I bring to these interviews from what the community cares about. And there are a lot of things we didn't talk about, but I think we can arrange for some more time. What's the whack-a-mole for Elko, though? What are you hearing from?
Well, it's most of it's resource related. It's like, what are we doing in interior on mining? What are we doing with BLM in terms of range management, in terms of fire?
And now Sagama's out.
Yeah, and I didn't know her, but apparently there was some 2006 stuff. It's on Forest Service because you've got HT and you've got a district ranger here in Elko. Got all those things. Cattlemen's Association folds into all that stuff. Farm Bureau folds into all that stuff. Minerals folds into everything around Nevada, but especially Elko, Eureka County are our centers of a bunch of stuff, not to forget Humboldt and the other ones. So, I mean, it's obviously general economic development, but also oversight. And that's a key word that you don't hear very much, Lori, which I think is the centerpiece of congressional authority is oversight. And that's one of the advantages of being on appropriations, where you can go, hey, I met with Secretary Burgum 2 weeks ago, introduced myself, here's what's on the top of our radar screens, blah, blah, blah. We're going to be going after some of your district offices because they don't respect, apparently, after we've made it real clear, we're going to be looking for it, the authority of the state engineer. So whenever your district offices start thinking that they're making decisions on groundwater in their permitting stuff, I'm going to be there screaming. And by the way, we've already got one screaming contest set up that involves the Ely district. And so it's like, I'm not telling you how to decide things. I'm telling you better follow the rules to the letter and be absolutely transparent.
Thank you, Congressman. I guess in closing, we'll just put in a word because it's a recent development. Head Start in our community is very concerned about being defunded. Is that something that your office can investigate? Are you concerned about that?
Absolutely. Tell your Head Start people if they haven't called us yet, shame on them, and I expect a call Monday. And they've been in the office before, and you guys should be proud of that program. They're doing good work. They've been in the office, met with me 2 or 3 times over the years, and it's like, these people are doing good work.
So you'd be surprised that they're cut?
What I would do is what I just told you I do. It's like, first of all, are they being cut? Because if the answer is no, then I'm capable of accepting that and reporting back to them and saying, you're not being cut, or if your stuff was paused because they were reviewing everything, but it's coming out of that okay, then that's one thing. If it's like, yeah, they're being cut, and oh, they're being cut because everybody's being cut, it's like that level of analysis won't work. So, but they need to call us.
Okay. What's the best way to call you? I'm going to...
Call the Reno office, Stacy Parabeck.
All right, Stacy, we're going to send people your way. Thank you.
Well, just send one and go, here's the grant.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the deal. Here's who we've talked to, and we'll be back to them within a week.
And that goes for all of these concerns and issues. You want to hear about them so that you can investigate them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If we haven't already.
Okay.
But if we have already, then they're gonna get the benefit of what we got so far.
Thank you. Did we get to the topics you were hoping to discuss?
Hey,
I mean, it changes about every 5 minutes, it seems like.
There's no hoping, but what I'll tell you is we haven't talked a lot, and it doesn't need to be, I'm in Elko so we can talk. If you've got some questions or issues or whatever, call Carrie Korsinski in my DC office, who's the comms person, and say, hey, I need him on the phone for 15, 20 minutes whenever it works.
Oh, great. She was great to work with in setting this up, so thank you. It's been too long, and we appreciate your time, Congressman.
You got it. Thank you, ma'am.